For me, it's always a very special occasion to come to an academic institution. There's a different atmosphere. There is an atmosphere of freedom. And so what I'm going to say today is very much I'll be breathing in that freedom. Having the benefit of the large volume, the quantity of the students in the room, what I'm going to do is very simple, nothing complicated. Do not want to really overlay it with too many complications. I'll be just raising few questions, 3 or 4 questions, in a very specific context of what is happening in the country. And this is not something which is happening the first time. And I can say with a very high degree of confidence, this is not last time either. There are very subtle and very strong reasons for that, why this is not going to be happening the last time. So, floods, I think that has become a part of the culture of Pakistan, which should not have been the case. And I go around quite a lot, and I sometimes actually see and hear that people say that, okay, this is a new normal. No, it's not a new normal. It should never become a new normal. We should never ever actually accept it. I think this is the fundamental part of it, because no matter what, and how do you actually persuade somebody positively to absorb disaster as your new normal, at a personal level, at a national level, at a community level, at a regional level. I mean, how do you do that? This is beyond any reasonable understanding. So, few questions. So, why Pakistan constantly suffers with floods? I think, is it because of our very heavy dependency on monsoon? Is it because we happen to be located at a region, at a geographical location, which is, I like this word, Sangam, which is at the Sangam of some very critical, very sensitive weather systems, the monsoon system. And by the way, this monsoon system has been a nourishing force for us before Pakistan was actually created, for many, many thousands of years. And it is unique, and what is unique, it needs to be preserved. It needs to be taken care of. So hold these questions. Your students, you need to hold these questions in your head very, very tightly, because I'm going to be coming back, I'm bouncing back on you, and I will be actually asking you that, okay, what are the solutions, how we move forward from this point onward. No, is it because the Pakistan is stuck of over 7,000 glaciers? Yeah. Famously we go around international conferences, we say that, okay, we are the glacial roof of the world. And, after the North Pole, we have the largest numbers of glaciers. And, but what we do not tell the world, not telling the world, at least in a very impactfully, is what is happening to those glaciers. The global average temperature increase, what is going on in the world, it is 0.8 degrees on an average level per year. In Pakistan, actually no one knows how much is it, but it is anything beyond 1.2 to 1.6 degrees centigrade. These are the very, very conservative numbers. And one actually sit down, and you have the privilege of having the experts. One actually sit down and actually see that what is happening. The new terminology which is actually creeping into our kind of a common language. जब हम चाय पी रहे होते हैं कैंटीन के ऊपर या हम अपने ड्राइंग रूम में बैठे होते हैं, तो kind of a discussion, cloud burst. How many of you hear the cloud burst? आपके पेरेंट्स ने, आपकी नानियों ने, दादियों ने आपको बताया था कि there is something called cloud burst as well? Never. I never heard about it. I actually started to learn about it. So the cloud burst actually cannot happen, at a 0.08 degree temperature. At the same time, I do not really want to be a prophet of doom and gloom here, and just raising a lot of questions, just raising a lot of concern, and then saying that, okay, just go and do thinking, and then we come it. I mean, there are solutions. There have been fundamental and wonderful solutions which have been actually practiced, successfully implemented around the world. The world has actually learned that there are choices. When we are talking about coming back to the definition of resilience, when we are actually talking about the resilience, we just cannot actually discuss, or we cannot take up one solution or even two solutions or even a dozen solutions. It has to be a holistic solution. There are a number of elements, a number of factors, and solutions have to come forward, have to be designed and have to be implemented in such a subtle way, and that's the only way we can say that, okay, we have started our very first step towards this. There is an overuse, allow me to say that, there is an abuse of the word resilience in this country without really having much of the understanding. Because if we, on a very informative, on a very impactful talk shows and in the meetings, if we are actually talking about, it's either dams or it's actually no solution, then I think we are actually on a wrong pathway. So, few questions and a few solutions. These are not the solutions, these are just the suggestions. And I would really like, and I would invite, because I happen to be, I'm standing here in an academic institution, I want you to critically review it. That's your moral duty. That's your role. That's your job. You must look everything critically. And you actually, whatever solution, whatever suggestion, whatever idea is actually coming forward, it's your duty to actually pass it through the research and development funnel, and then come up with the actionable items and actionable solutions. So what are those? The very first, I think, yes, first thing first, we need to strengthen our infrastructure. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And Pakistan is sitting at the crossroad, at the junction of the very powerful, very strong rivers. And those rivers are going to, this is unchangeable. We just cannot change it, We're such a large body of population, we can't even migrate. There are sporadic efforts, but Pakistan as a whole cannot actually migrate. And we cannot change our geography. वो जैसे कहते हैं हम अपने नेबर्स नहीं चेंज कर सकते, इसी तरह से हम अपनी geography भी बाज़ों का नहीं चेंज कर सकते, at least in a medium or long term period of time. Yes, it might happen in over the thousands of years. It had been happening over the course of the evolution and the development of the civilizations. But I think our job is, and our circle of influence and our role is a much more limited, and that's what we have the responsibility to do actually. So strengthening the infrastructure, of course, is very, very important. It needs to be modernized, yes, but it needs to be combined. The hardcore, the very brick and mortar infrastructure, it needs to be combined, it needs to be embedded with the nature-based solutions. And those nature-based solutions are very much there, and they have been practiced, and they have been proven to be very, 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 very effective actually. जहाँ पे हम roads बनाते हैं, bridges बनाते हैं, dams बनाते हैं, and my own institution has been doing that as well. The very first thing is actually cutting down the trees, devegetating the land mass, and deforesting the surrounding areas. And there is always in the PC1s, in all this official documentation, that every single tree being cut, there are 10 trees are going to be planted, and never happened. It actually never happened. I think that need to be changed as well. And in addition to that, we need to invest into the nature itself. So far, the development model which has evolved, and that's not only in Pakistan, I've worked a lot in Africa and several other places in the world as well. The development model has evolved, is very much construction-based model. It's very much like defeating the nature. I think that need to be changed as well. We need to work, and we want the nature to work in our favor. And again, I think there are ways to do that. How many of you, I'm sure Dr. Saab remember, and a few others, how many of you remember there used to be wetlands in even in urban areas, शहरों के आगे पीछे भी, पंजाबी में उन्हें छप्पड़ कहते थे. So those wetlands used to do a very valuable service. In the scientific terminology, those wetlands are called the sponge. They used to absorb the excess water. They were home to a lot of biodiversity as well. There was a lot of kind of a vegetation coming on because of the water, and they all are gone everywhere. You look into the bigger cities or smaller cities, you go to the to the rural areas, even in those areas, they have been converted into something else which is considered to be useful. I don't know in what sense, but they all are gone. I think restoring them is critical, and this is a model which has been actually reinvented in many of the Western countries and South American countries, where the wetland has been actually brought back into the system, and they have proven to be very, very effective. So those wetlands, especially in the specific context of Pakistan, where there's a flood coming almost every monsoon season or every other monsoon season, I think those wetlands could have been a kind of a natural defense system. But those need to be. You know, this is just giving one example where I actually need to invest into the nature. You know, not really defeating the nature, not to be at war with nature, and and there are several other ways as well that. The third one, which is interesting and kind of a sensitive, which is about institutions. What we are seeing around us, it is actually result of, one of the reason is the result of the weak institutions. They have not really come up with the right kind of strategies. They're not really able to absorb the risk. Dr. साहब ने बड़ी अच्छी बात की, उन्होंने कहा कि हमें एहसास ही नहीं है, हमें अंदाजा ही नहीं है, the kind of risks which are staring right into our eyes, we are exposed to it. You know, these are the role of the institutions, and the very specifically established institutions. They have been given the mandate, they have been given the government support, and they have been given the resources. And so, but somehow those institutions have not really been able to elevate themselves and come up with the right kind of strategies. So the institution building is very, very important. What we are seeing is a lot of fragmentation. And there are reasons for fragmentation. Pakistan is a complex country, so the reasons are very well established. But I think what just cannot be hide behind this fact that Pakistan is a complex country, you know, because of the number of the reasons, you know, and the exposure level is very high. The vulnerability actually has been increasing, and that's why we see this lot of fragmentation is going on. I mean, one of the kind of surprising fact is we have been so much experience. You know, we have been the kind of the global expert in flood management because we pass through them every other season. But every other season, if we go around into the areas or even to the government institutions, there is a lot of fragmentation. There's a lot of running around. Who's doing what? You know, who's coordinating this? You know, where is the damage assessment? Who's actually coordinating the relief work? And so there is a lot of fragmentation because there is not a kind of a clarity on who's doing what, and the new institutions have been erected, have been established without really giving much of the thought. What happened to the old institutions? You know, civil defense क्यों चली गई? कैसे खत्म हो गई? किसी ने कभी सोचा ये? You know, it used to be very effective institution. In my many decades ago, in my school days, they used to come to our schools. They used to give us a training, and they used to do a lot of things. It was quite useful actually. And I still, some of the things which I learned in that was self-help होती थी, self-aid होती थी. Some of those things. They're still fresh in my head and they're still fresh in my memory. And वो चाइनीज कहते होते हैं ना कि जो काम छोटे हाथ नहीं सीखते वो कोई भी नहीं सीख पाता, तो वो छोटे हाथों ने सीखा हुआ था. That's why still. So I think that institution has really gone now. And there are several others. There's a very long list of institutions who were there for a very specific purpose. They have actually gone. Now the fourth is talking about the resilience. I think the resilience has to be built with the people. It has to be built around people, with the communities. The communities have the indigenous knowledges, and those knowledges have not been actually absorbed, have not been taken care of, have not been taken into consideration. So what we are seeing is that knowledge is lost, it's gone, and the new knowledge hasn't really evolved. I must say that I will take a little bit of a liberty. The academic institutions, the universities have not really been at the task as well. They have not come up with the right kind of the research and which is needed. पाकिस्तान के मसाइल बड़े बुनियादी हैं. यहाँ लोगों के पास पीने का पानी नहीं है, यहाँ डिजास्टर के मसले हैं, यहाँ पे डेंगू आ जाता है. Many of the most resourceful universities, they like to actually research into the nanotechnology and the machine learning and those kind of areas, which are equally important. But I think the fundamental challenges, the fundamental problems need to be first addressed. Now, I think one need to recognize that a lot of effort has gone into the flood management. A lot of institutions have been actually learning over the period of time as well. The PDMAs and DMAs and others, they have become a lot more actually aware and knowledgeable. And if we see from a disaster to disaster, the damages, the casualties, they are actually going down. And from a purely statistical point of view, I think this might be satisfying, that, from 2022, the loss and damage is 20% less. The number of people who have lost their lives is less as well, which I think we should recognize that, we should take that into consideration. But every single life is a valuable thing that need to be taken into consideration as well. And then the other thing is the fallout, the economic fallout. Those people who are actually already living on the edge of their economic livelihood, I think takes a number of years, and sometimes they never recover back to the capacity which they earlier had it. So I think, while, statistically, disaster management, those things are actually very good, and they are actually coming for the right numbers. I think the anthropology, sociological departments, political science, and all these actually need to play their part as well. The other thing is, one of the other challenges, this is my last point, the other challenge which actually we are seeing here in this country, and this is actually very much specifically related to my own institution, National Disaster Risk Management Fund. I think this whole debate, or this whole kind of a conceptual understanding of the risk, I think that need to be elevated. That need to be discussed a lot more in the TV talk shows, in seminars like this, and a number of other forums as well. Because there's a lot about forecasting, about prediction, which is extremely valuable. The forecasting and the prediction, it has a time limitation. And the forecasting started to dilute after 30 days. 45 days, the confidence level is much lower. Now, the risk is a different ball game altogether. You can actually quantify risk, and you can actually integrate the risks into your broader planning for the next 200 years, for the next 300 years, even up to that. But the problem is with the risk, it's a lot more difficult subject to understand. I think one of the big, and I would invite all the researchers. I mean, they need to actually break it down to understandable, to biteable kind of the concepts. We set up a natural catastrophic model, one of its kind, risk modeling application, and it can actually model the floods, the droughts, the heat waves, cyclones, and almost everything, up to around 200 years, 300 years. And it come up with a very good quantifiable assessment reports, which can be useful, extremely useful. But the biggest challenge which we are facing is that no one is willing to look 200 years in advance. We have the system, we have the application, we have all the numbers, we can generate beautiful reports. Now, how to make those reports for the researchers and academic institutions, policymakers, and others to use them, integrate them. I think this is the biggest challenge which we are actually right now facing. But I think in the specific context of Pakistan, the risk assessment and the risk education, the risk quantification, I think that's the only way to go. Because that's a kind of a horizon, 50 years, 100 years, that's the kind of a planning horizon which we need to look into that. So, that's how resilience is not a project. Resilience is a way of life. We all need to adopt that. I thank you very much.